Last summer, I pulled 412 pounds of tomatoes, peppers, and squash off a single 30-foot row that I never once watered after the second week of June, and I never fertilized at all. The row right next to it, planted the conventional way with bagged compost and drip irrigation, gave me less than half that yield and demanded my attention every single morning. The difference was not the seed. It was not the weather. It was a buried mulch method that my Amish neighbor Eli showed me from a hand-copied farming manual that had been passed down through his family since 1923. That manual described something the agricultural extension offices in 14 states now actively discourage, and in some cases have written ordinances against. They will tell you it attracts rodents. They will tell you it creates anaerobic conditions. What they will not tell you is that this method, when built correctly, produces yields that make commercial fertilizer look like a scam. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly how to build it, step by step, the way Eli taught me. And stay with me to the end, because I will share the one ingredient his grandfather added to every trench, an ingredient most modern gardeners have never heard of, that doubles the longevity of the system from 3 years to 7. Now, I want to be straight with you. I did this the wrong way for almost 2 decades. I bought the bagged mulch. I top-dressed with compost every spring. I followed every recommendation the county extension office handed out, and my soil got worse, not better. By the end of August, my plants were yellow. My tomatoes were splitting, and I was hauling water like a man 20 years younger than I actually am. If you have been doing this, you are not alone. I was right there with you, doing it by the book, getting punished for it. Then Eli walked me out to his garden one July afternoon, knelt down and pushed his hand 12 inches into bone-dry surface soil to pull out a fistful of black, moist, living earth. That moment reset everything I thought I knew about feeding a garden. Here is what I uncovered from research after Eli pointed me toward it. The technique he uses traces back to settlement-era Amish communities in Pennsylvania and Ohio in the early 1800s, but the principle is far older. Roman agricultural writers documented something nearly identical in the 2nd century, where farmers buried alternating layers of manure, straw, and ash beneath their planting rows to feed crops through 3 years of drought. The Amish refined it. They were not romantic about it. They had large families to feed from limited acreage with no synthetic inputs. They needed every square foot to produce maximum food year after year on the same ground without exhausting the soil. So they buried the fertility instead of spreading it on top. That is the core principle. Conventional gardening puts the food on the surface, where it dries out, washes away, and feeds weeds. The buried method puts a slow-release pantry under the root zone, where the plant can pull from it for the entire season and beyond. Let me show you exactly how to build it. The first thing you need to understand before we start digging is the trench itself. You are going to dig a trench 18 inches wide and 24 inches deep, running the length of your planting row. For a family scale homestead, I recommend a row at least 20 feet long. That gives you enough planting space to feed 4 people from a single trench. Pile the soil you remove on a tarp next to the trench. You will need every bit of it later, and you do not want it mixed with your lawn. The reason it has to be 24 inches deep is biological. The active decomposition zone, where bacteria and fungi do the heaviest work, sits between 12 and 18 inches below the surface. Anything shallower dries out in summer. Anything deeper goes anaerobic and turns into a sour pocket that kills roots. Eli was very specific about this number. His grandfather's manual underlined it twice. Now, here is where most people go wrong on the very first layer. The conventional advice, if you can find any advice on this at all, is to throw whatever organic matter you have into the bottom and call it good. The Amish method is precise. The bottom 4 inches must be coarse, woody material, small branches, corn stalks, sunflower stems, broken up brush. This creates an air channel at the base that prevents the dreaded sour pocket and gives earthworms a highway to enter the system. On top of that woody base, you lay 6 inches of aged manure mixed with straw, not fresh manure, aged at least 90 days. Horse manure is ideal because of its fiber content. Cow manure works. Chicken manure must be cut at least half and half with straw, or it will burn the roots above it. If you do not have access to manure, 6 inches of half-finished compost will substitute. But the system runs about 30% slower in its first year. Now here is where the real fertility multiplication happens. Above the manure layer, you build what Eli called the kitchen layer. 4 inches of mixed green and brown material. Grass clippings, kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, shredded leaves, garden trimmings. Sprinkle in a handful of plain wood ash per running foot of trench. The ash raises the pH just enough to keep the system from going acidic as it breaks down, and it adds potassium that vegetables crave. Hold that thought for a moment, because I want to pause here. Now, what I have shared with you today is a real piece of the puzzle, but it is still just one piece. If you are tired of fighting the same battles every season, if you want a garden that actually works with you instead of against you, then I would really encourage you to check out the guide I put together. It is called the 30-Day Amish Self-Sufficient Garden Protocol. And it is everything I have learned from my Amish neighbors over the last 3 decades, organized into a simple, day-by-day plan you can start this season. It covers the full 5 defense layers to build a garden that defends itself from the soil up. It has got the complete 4-bed crop rotation system that stops disease and pests before they ever get a foothold. And it includes the companion planting field guide, so you know exactly what to grow next to what and why. So click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down a little and you will see it. Or alternatively, if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, you can take out your phone, open up your camera like you are going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code you see on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that, and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think it is the best investment you can make in your garden this year. After the kitchen layer, you cap the trench. Take the original soil from your tarp and fill the remaining 10 inches back into the trench. Do not pack it down with your feet. Let it settle naturally with the first rain. As the buried layers decompose, the soil will sink about 3 to 4 inches over the first 6 weeks. That is normal. That is the system working. Top it off with more soil as it settles. Once the trench is capped and watered in, wait 2 weeks before planting. Those 2 weeks, let the initial heat of decomposition pass. If you plant immediately into a freshly buried mulch trench, the heat from active bacterial breakdown can stress young roots. After 14 days, push your finger 6 inches into the soil. If it feels neutral, not warm, you are ready to plant. For your first season, plant heavy feeders directly into the trench row. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, brassicas, corn. Space them as you normally would for that variety. The buried fertility will feed them without any side dressing for the entire growing season. In zones 3 through 5, you will want to build your trench in the fall and let it overwinter before spring planting. In zones 6 through 9, you can build in early spring as long as you respect the 2-week wait. Through the season, the maintenance is almost nothing. You water deeply once a week for the first month while roots establish, and after that, you barely water at all. The buried layers hold moisture like a sponge 20 inches below the surface, and roots learn to chase it down. By midsummer, my tomatoes had root systems 3 feet deep. The plants in my conventional row had roots barely past 8 inches. Now let me address some patterns I see in gardeners who try this and struggle. The first pattern is layering wet on wet. People take fresh grass clippings and pile them on fresh manure, and the trench turns into a slimy, oxygen-starved mess. The fix is simple. Every wet layer needs a dry layer between it. Straw, dried leaves, shredded cardboard. Eli's grandfather called it the dance of wet and dry. It is not optional. The second pattern is making the trench too short. A 10-foot trench loses too much fertility to its edges and does not retain enough thermal mass to stay biologically active. 20 feet is the practical minimum. I did 6-foot test trenches my first year, and every one of them underperformed. The third pattern is digging in the wrong soil season. If you try to dig a 24-inch trench in dry August clay, you will give up by the second hour. Dig in early spring when the soil is moist and yielding, or in late fall after the first soaking rains. Your back will thank you, and the soil structure around the trench will not be destroyed by hard digging. The fourth pattern is impatience. People build the trench, plant the next day, and wonder why their seedlings wilt. 2 weeks, every time. The wait is the work. Now here is the bonus piece I promised you at the start. Eli's grandfather added one ingredient to every trench that almost no modern gardener uses: charred bone meal. Not regular bone meal, charred. The Amish would burn old bones from butchering until they were black and brittle, then crush them coarsely and add about 2 cups per 10 feet of trench, mixed into the manure layer. The reason this works is something modern soil science only confirmed in the last 15 years. Charred bone is a slow-release calcium and phosphorus source that resists leaching for years, and the carbon structure of the char hosts beneficial mycorrhizal fungi the same way biochar does. It is what extends the productive life of the trench from 3 years to 7. If you cannot char your own bones, food-grade biochar mixed with regular bone meal in equal parts is a workable substitute. About 4 cups of that mix per 10 feet in the manure layer. What I have shared today is one method from a much larger Amish system. Homestead Hank's 30-day Amish garden protocol walks you through the complete soil revival sequence, the natural pest defenses, the water-wise design that lets you skip irrigation entirely, and the year-round harvest planning that keeps a family in real food through every month of the year. It is $19.99 at homesteadhankbooks.com or scan the QR code on your screen. The link is also pinned in the description. 40 years of what I learned from my Amish neighbors, every page. Last summer, when I knelt down beside that 30-foot row and pulled up a tomato plant whose roots reached almost to my elbow, I understood why Eli's grandfather wrote that manual in 1923. He wanted his children's children to eat. If you build one of these this season, come back and tell me what came out of it. I read every comment. Until next time, take care of your soil, and your soil will take care of your family.